Well, speaking of the Pac-12, it is G5 Friday here at Locked On College Football, which means we're going through a record prediction for at least one Group of Five team. Regrettably, that does involve Oregon State now, but Carter Bahns of CBS Sports is here to discuss. Nobody else I would discuss Oregon State stuff with. It would be sacrilegious, especially for those of you who have been with me for a very, very long time here on this channel, to not discuss it with Carter. And I want to start with this, Carter with the Beavs. I expect him to be better, not just because they brought in Maalik Murphy, who was one of the top transfer quarterbacks to move in the country. I thought he was going to wind up somewhere like Auburn, and he winds up at Oregon State. It's a phenomenal get for the Beavs. There is a way, technically speaking, for them to make the playoff, right? I think it's just the one way, but there's a way.
Yeah, it's going undefeated, right?
Yeah, that's the way.
Or 11-1 with a loss to Oregon, a la Boise State.
It'd be close. I think in a 12 team, that would warrant serious consideration.
Yeah.
Most of you probably don't have Oregon State's schedule memorized. That is, of course, what we are here to do, to tell you who they play. They open with an ACC team in Cal, who I'm a little higher on than most. I am worried I overrated them a touch. Wilcox, I just feel like no matter what happens, he just stays at that same spot. Did you know that Oregon State is favored in that game? Week 1, former Pac-12 team, RIP, coming to town. The California Golden Bears are 3-point dogs to the Oregon State Beavers in a 2-team conference. That's the world we live in. I think they're winning that game. I'm going Oregon State.
Is it the anti-Fernando Mendoza effect? But then but then you got to remember, Justin Wilcox is the same guy who pulled a Fernando Mendoza out of thin air. So to your point, like Wilcox, all he does is win 6 to 7 to 8 games a year, regardless of who he's got. And like the recruiting isn't off the charts great, but it's also not bad enough that they can't just reload. So like, yeah, they're probably going to win 5, 6, 7 games next year. Should they be favored on the road against an Oregon State team that's better? Maybe not. Vegas doesn't think so.
Yeah, I'm supportive of Vegas there. Whenever he retires from coaching, can we put Justin Wilcox into the MLB legendary Hall of Pretty Good?
Yeah, seriously.
Let's put him.
He's just the king of 500.
Yes, he's going to the Hall of Pretty Good. So that's game 1. Fresno State at home. I'm taking Oregon State there again. I do think that they'll run into 3 of their. I'm not going to say how many losses I'm giving them throughout the season. Their preseason win total is 6.5. I like the over. I think it's going to be 3 straight L's. This is a tough stretch for Oregon State. 2 of the 3 are on the road. They've got to go to Texas Tech, who's my top team in the Big 12. They've got to go to Oregon, who's going to be a Big 10 title contender again. They host Houston, who I really like in the Big 12 this year. Houston's the most likely game that they win in that stretch, right? Like, maybe they pull a stunner in Lubbock against Texas Tech. I can't quite get behind that.
No, I think the first 2, I don't know if Sharpie in as losses is the right word, but it's a step up from pencil. Like I'm probably at least using pen. I don't know if it's permanent marker.
Erasable pen.
Sure, we'll go with that. I'll erasable pen them in for 2 losses. And then I think I'm going to pencil in Houston as a win. But we're talking like this is like 0.5 millimeter lead on the win there. I like Connor Wegman at Houston. I like Willie Fritz at Houston. I think it's one that it's one of those games that kind of your season hinges on. Like if Oregon State is to have one of those like, oh, we feel really good about how we did this season kind of seasons, that's the kind of game that you probably win. And if you lose it, then yeah, maybe you're around that 6 or 7 win mark that Vegas thinks you are. But that's the game that I don't want to call it stealing a win, but it's one that I think is on the fringes of a coin flip to maybe you're expected to lose it, that you really want to get to take your season to the next level. I don't think it's out of the out of the question that they could win it. But I do think what Houston has is going to be a lot better than they had last year, and sneakily very tough even at home.
Yeah, and by the way, Houston wasn't bad last year. They were 5-7. They should have been. I predicted them to go 2-10, and they just started winning some football games. So I do like Willie Fritz a good amount. But you mentioned that game. I want to take a 30,000-foot view real quick on this season for Oregon State. There's no conference championship to win, right? This is the last holding year before you have a conference again that you're going to go try and win starting in 2026. If you're Oregon State, I think you are measuring Trent Bray this season. That's the number one thing you're looking at. Everything that you could feel good about or bad about on a Saturday this year should be done so in the context of a long-term projection of we're going into a new conference that if we're run correctly as a program and we're starting to get more money coming in, that's how they got Maalik Murphy, we should be a contender year in and year out. And in, once every 5 to 7 years, make a run for the college football playoff. You're looking this season at, is Trent Bray that guy? And with this schedule, as we're about to get to, you should be able to take a step forward and at least get to a bowl game this year. And I think if they can put 2 Power 4 wins on the resume this year, going to win at Oregon, which they haven't done since 2007. I think 7 was the last time. Certainly not expecting that. If you play 2 Big 12 and an ACC team, you find a way to go 2-1 in there. Oh my gosh, Beaver fans should be excited.
Yeah, 100%. I think if you get out of the first half of the season, if you extend it even to 6 games, because going to App State is not necessarily the easiest thing in the world, and then Wake Forest, like, I get they're probably going to be down, but it's ACC caliber. Like, if you go 6 games in, if Oregon State has a winning record through the first 6 games, I think you're feeling great because, not to look too far ahead, but if we're being honest with ourselves, Oregon State could go 6-0 in the second half of the season.
That's what I'm saying. And that's a perfect transition into the second half. I do think they win at App State. At that point, you've got a proven quarterback in Maalik Murphy who will be well entrenched in the system. I think they, roster-wise, I have questions about the wide receiver room, but that's never been the foundation of what has made Oregon State successful. So it's not that it doesn't matter, but I think they can get by being average to below average there. At App State, Wake Forest, Lafayette, Washington State, Sam Houston at Tulsa. Those final 4 games in that stretch should be wins. I think they'll beat Washington State at home. I'm taking them to lose to the Cougs on the road. First-year coach, a lot of new players. I think they'll have figured it out more by the end of the season, which is an inverse of what Washington State has been. Tough to win on the road in Pullman. Tough to beat a team twice. But I think Oregon State fans have to just be patient in the middle, that there could be 3 straight losses. When you go Texas Tech and Oregon on the road and Houston at home, you could lose all those games. But Carter, I think this is one of my favorite over bets of the season. 6.5, according to our friends at FanDuel. Give me the Beavs. 8-4, I think they go this year.
Well, I think if you like Oregon State more than you liked Washington State, you bet the over on this schedule, because 2 games against Washington State in the second half. If you like them better than the Cougs, you say they probably at least split, if not sweep, right? Mm-hmm. And if they're good enough to beat Wazoo, then they're certainly good enough to beat the CUSA and American teams are playing on the second half of the schedule. And you can Sharpie in Lafayette as a win. That's 5 wins. So all you need to get to the over is 2 wins in the front half of the season. And we just walked through that and we said 2 or 3 should be maybe not the expectation, but at least what you're hoping for. So yeah, if you think Oregon State's better than Washington State, you bet the over, because that's at least 1 win in a half of the season that you could get up to 6 wins right there.